Welcome back to Legacy Build Your Kingdom. I'm Rudy Knapp, and we are on episode 44. Today's episode, I'd like to talk a little bit about this concept of where we were to where we're going. So, we talked about this idea of the why before. Why did we do this? In all of year one, we talked about the why is it important to build your kingdom. And now we shifted in year two, episodes 42, 43, and now here 44, continuing on how we're going to do this. So this becomes a little bit more direct. I want you guys to really look at this concept of putting things into action. This concept of don't be a dreamer, be a doer. And so I live my life this way, and I truly think that even though I'm not masterful at anything that we're talking about on these podcasts, I am in the process of still putting things into action. So we don't just say we're going to do something. We don't just dream of doing something. We actually do things by putting our words to actions, and we do what we're trying to accomplish. So we spent 43 episodes together. We've deconstructed the mindset of a warrior, right? The discipline of a disciple and the grit required to build a life of significance. All of those things we've done in these episodes. All of this relating back to your kingdom, if you will, and now working on your life. But today we're going to pivot a little bit. We talked about you being the king or queen of your domain. But here is the cold, hard truth that most successful gurus won't tell you. A kingdom that relies solely on one person isn't a kingdom, it's a job. If you are the only person in your family who understands the vision, if you are the only one with the discipline to manage the resources, and if you're the only one holding the moral compass, then your legacy is a massive single point of failure. That point of failure is you. What happens to a kingdom when the king is no longer in the room? History is littered with the ruins of empires that were built by giants and destroyed by their children. You've seen it. The first generation builds it, the second generation enjoys it, and the third generation destroys it. Why? Because they inherited assets, but they didn't inherit systems. Today, we're going to fix that. We're going to talk about the family council. This is the missing piece of divine blueprint. It's how you move from being a successful individual to being a founder of your sovereign lineage. We're moving from the me to the we. This is powerful. This episode is about leaving your legacy. And this is the blueprint. I call it a divine blueprint because everything comes from a path from God. You want to have a legacy that lasts generationally. You want to leave what your name represents for later in life or after life to those people that are important to you. Now, I know I speak in terms of us having children, and most of us have children, and some people don't have children, and some people have families and have legacies that are passed down to other people that they impact, and there's nothing wrong with that. The concept has to be the same, though. We need this family council. So what is this sovereign table that I'm talking about? Let's define it, right? A family council is not a family meeting. A family meeting is where you talk about who didn't take out the trash or where you're going on vacation or why the grades aren't where they should be. That's management. We aren't talking about management. We're talking about governance. When you govern things, you not only are taking an initiative to get the people involved, especially the people at your table. You're not just managing them. In a world of like high-level businesses, the board of directors doesn't decide what color the office walls are. They decide the mission, the values, and the long-term strategies. Your family needs a board of directors. It needs a sovereign table. When you sit at this table, you aren't just mom or dad or son or daughter. You are the stewards of the kingdom. Most of you listening have been working your tails off to secure your future. You've been investing, you've been saving, you've been building, but have you ever stopped to ask if your children are even qualified to manage what you're leaving them. If you leave $1 million vision to $100 mind, the money will vanish. It'll be gone. If you leave a godly heritage to a child who hasn't been trained in the laws of the kingdom, the heritage will be compromised. The family council is the training ground. It is where we bridge the gap between commanding your purpose to leaving a generational impact. It is where you stop being the provider and start being the educator. This council meets once a quarter, minimum. It is formal. It is intentional. And it is where the divine blueprint gets handed off from your hands into theirs while you are still alive to watch them handle it. This concept is so important to pass down to your children. We live in a generation where we are watching this digital dictator, as I call it, control our children. The phones control us at times. They control our children at times. We must take ownership of what is in our legacy and in our kingdoms. In order to do that, we must have this council meet. Now, let me give you a personal part of this. Whereas I sit back and I watch as I'm divorced and I still have family councils. I understand a lot of people that are divorced can't have any interaction with their former queen, or if you want to call it king and queen, they can't because of personal differences, those things that come in play. But if you truly care about your children, your heirs to this whole legacy, this whole heritage that you're giving them, if you truly care about them, you will understand that your relationship as a family, as a mom and a dad, is so much more important to these children, even though you are divorced. So we still have family counsel. Yes, we talk about management things at times as well, but we talk about what our expectations are as a family and what we represent. And what we represent with this last name, and what we represent with this family that became our children and continues to go on after we're long gone and when they have children. We represent our core values. And we have those conversations about what we expect as people in society. This is where you command your purpose. We talk about their purpose. We talk about their future. We talk about the concept of what they want, and they talk about it. So as our children continue to run their ideas in their brain, they continue to have opportunity to speak about what they want because they're part of this. This is a kingdom that isn't just run by me. It is run by a council of people. And that's where we want to talk about how we can do this, right? So how do we run this? How do we have this council, this sovereign table, and how do we run these meetings? Well, what you actually do for those 20 minutes, that hour, and for that day at the table, there are actually 4 pillars of Sovereign Family Counsel. And I'm going to talk about the 4. This is what I created, this is what I believe, and this is what I think should happen in all council meetings. Pillar number 1, I call it the review of the family creed. In episode 12, I talked about defining your why, but your family needs a why. At the council, we start by reciting and reviewing our core values. If the Knapp family represents integrity, courage, and faith, we ask, how do we manifest those values this quarter? So if we're meeting quarterly, how do we manifest them this quarter? This isn't just fluff. This is about the brand identity. Your family's name is a brand. If you don't define the brand, the world will define it for you. In pillar 2, I call it transparency of the kingdom. This is where most of you will get uncomfortable. At the sovereign table, we talk about the numbers. Obviously, you adjust this for age, but if you're 16 years old, if you have a 16-year-old that doesn't understand what it costs to run your kingdom, how can you expect them to run one on their own one day? We talk about the assets, we talk about the debts, we talk about the kingdom fund, the money that was set aside specifically for generational growth. We're training them to look at wealth not as spending money, but as a seed for a future harvest. Think about that. If they don't know any better, and if you haven't discussed with them, and they still believe every dollar is there to spend, they are not ready for this. We need to make this transparent in our kingdom. What our funding, what our wealth, and how we're using it, and what its expectations are used for. Pillar three, the Tank segment is what I call it. This is my favorite. This is if you want your children to command their purpose, you have to give them a platform to practice. If our family council, we allow the members to pitch ideas. In our family council, we allow our members to pitch ideas. That means maybe it's a business idea, a charity they want the family to support, or a skill they want to learn. If they can justify it and it aligns to the family creed, the kingdom funds it. You are teaching them that a family resource or that family resources are there to empower their purpose, not their comfort. I preach this nonstop. We all have a purpose, and our purpose is not our profession. Some of us pick our professions to align with our purpose, like being a teacher. But my purpose in life is not to be a teacher. It is to help people get the most out of their ability. And this goes back to my entire history of who I am, coaching young youth athletes to get the best of their ability, life coaching to make sure that we have people that understand that their life should be built with confidence, that they can become better, they can achieve the goals that they want for their life. What about just being a concept of a teacher? Trying to get students to be at their best ability in the classroom academically. All of these things will align towards my purpose, which also comes from God Himself. I believe God has given me a purpose to help others around, and it also gives me an intrinsic value when they do get the help that they needed, along with the pride in which they see with themselves from success. I have clients that are showing me success. That's amazing. I have a young client that's ending today after 3 months, and he is unbelievably shown growth from day one all the way through 3 months of working with him physically. But I'm not really concerned about the physical as much as I've seen improvement in how amazing he has shown strength and how great he's gotten in the weight room. And his physical pillar has been amazing. It has shown growth. You can see it physically, all of it. I see the growth in his mental capacity in life through the life coaching, through the discussions, through the challenges, through him showing discipline, through the concept of what he has done in this short amount of time with me. He gets all the glory. He gets all of it because he put in the work. We talk about consistency. We talk about discipline. We talk about all the things that he's achieved. It is amazing. I can't wait to see where he is a year from now. I can't wait to see him hit all the goals that he wants in life. He's already hit his physical goals to what he needs for his future purpose in life to help people, but also to become a fireman, these things. It is amazing to watch. So when I say this, and I say that we have to be able to empower our young ones to look for their purpose, to empower their purpose, we have to give them the opportunities to do so. As we move on to pillar 4, the conflict resolution. Kingdoms are destroyed from the inside out. Bitterness, unspoken resentment, sibling rivalry, these are the termites in the structure. The council is a safe harbor. This concept of we air the grievances, we forgive, and we realign. We don't leave the table until the unity of the kingdom is restored. We work it out. We hash it out. We use this table, this sovereign table, to take care of those intrinsic or inter issues in the kingdom. Once they're resolved, we can move forward with our goals and use our core values in order to resolve these things. What is most important? Is family most important? Is the legacy of your name important? We utilize this to eliminate these problems within. Okay. I want to take a second and talk to the parents. All right. Have you gone through and talked about the psychology of your children when it comes to your kingdom, right? Why haven't you done this? I can tell you why. The psychology of your sovereign heir is what I call it. This is understanding what your children's capacity in their brain is right now. Well, I'll tell you why you won't, and why you haven't had these conversations or you haven't really looked into, right? It's because you're afraid of losing your control. You spent your life being the one who makes the calls. You're the one who builds the kingdom. And the thought of letting your kids, with their mistakes and their lack of experience, into the war room scares you. And we know what war room is, right? You're into the room that makes the decisions. When we start letting our children get into that room, we start teaching them the ways of our kingdom and how we make these decisions. They are now part of the decision making process. And that is scary. That is a loss of control. And that is something that we have to train our youth to be able to do. But listen to me, if you don't let them make mistakes while you are their mentor, they will make mistakes when you are a memory. The goal of the divine blueprint is not to create dependence, it's to create sovereigns. You want your sons to be kings, you want your daughters to be queens. You want them to have their own kingdoms that intersect with yours to create an empire. When you sit at a council table, you are telling them, I trust you, I value you. You are part of something bigger than yourself. Do you know what that does to a young person's psychology? It kills the entitlement mindset. Entitlement, entitled kids, they think that the world owes them something. Kingdom stewards know that they owe the legacy something. They realize they are just one link in a long chain of greatness, of your family, of your name. When they see the work that you put in, when they see the securing the future part of the blueprint in action, they stop seeing your wealth as a safety net and they start seeing it as responsibility. This is how you secure your future, not through a bank vault, but through the character of the people who will hold the keys to the vault. This, to me, represents everything you want to teach your young ones, especially when we start talking about our spiritual uplift. We implement this concept to them, which is all aligned with his architect, meaning God Himself. You create character for your children so they see how important and how impactful it can be. When you pass this down to whoever it is, your children, your niece and nephew, your people, the ones that you are impacting on a daily basis, whoever you pass this down to, this truly shows them that character is more important than wealth. In the long run, when your character takes over, you make smarter choices and your legacy becomes more elaborate. So, as we wrap this up, episode 44, I have a challenge for you. This isn't just a good idea, this is a command. This is your call to action. If you truly believe in building a kingdom, you will take out your calendar right now. I don't care if your kids are 5 or 25. If you're going to you are going to schedule. Don't overcomplicate it. Get some good food, sit at a table where everyone is at the same level. No TV, no phones. Look them in the eye and say, we are the Knapp family, or we are the Smith family, or we are the Johnson family. We are whatever your last name is. We are building a kingdom, and I want you to help me lead it. That one sentence will change the trajectory of your bloodline. It moves from blueprint, from a piece of paper, into the hearts of the people you love most. The individual build is over. The institutional build begins today. You got the mission. You got the blueprint. Now go assemble your council. Understand we are transforming from the why to the how. As we talked about many times on these podcasts, we not only model it, we now are teaching it and including the next generation into understanding it and being part of the decision making. I am Rudy Knapp. This is Legacy Build Your Kingdom. I have a lot going on my plate right now. I missed last week of the podcast because there are so many things that I have to finish. This is all part of my legacy. This is all part of my future legacy when I'm long gone. The things that I'm creating, the goals that I'm trying to reach, the mindset that I have for how this can help others in my purpose in life, it's overwhelming. It brings me intrinsic value. It is continuously going to help my life and also help the lives of my kingdom because now they become part of this. So as I continue to go on and I keep doing my little projects and finishing and completing and setting my goals, and even this year alone, 2026, I've done so many different things that I really enjoy, that I really am proud of doing for myself, which is what you should feel for yourself, that confidence you build up to complete things. Stop being stagnant. We talk about lost all the time. LOST. If you feel lazy, you feel out of control, you feel stagnant, or you feel like torture. The LOST, meaning that your life is a little out of whack right now. Then let's get back on track. Let's follow some of these steps in this kingdom that we're talking about building. Let's get our own lives back in track so that we can take action to help those that are following our footsteps. If you truly need help with this assistance, again, I have a life coaching business. I am doing fitness training at some point. I'm also doing the concept of the idea of life coaching. Please reach out to me. Please get back on track. There are so many different tools that I have to help us get to where we really want to be. And I believe in that. The torture part is the worst. When you have great ideas or you really want to live a life a certain way and you just never put it into action, that is torture. I don't want you to live in torture. I want you to live your life like I expect my own children to live. Find their happiness. Be a doer, not a dreamer. And with that being said, I want you to go command your purpose. I want you to secure your future. And for heaven's sake, leave a generational impact. I'll see you next week.